it's Ryan.
And Caden.
And welcome back to First Do No Harm.
Today we're going to be talking about the MCAT a little bit. What we did, what we wish we should have done, and some tips for the MCAT. Not just the MCAT, but other types of acceptance tests like the GRE, PCATs, etc.
So let's get started. My plan whenever I was going to study for the MCAT was I had given myself this wonderful 100 days of studying sort of schedule, and I was going to stick with that. But what happened last semester was I got sick and I just stayed sick all semester. I don't know what it was. It was like a cold after the other, and it was awful. So that plan sort of just went out the window. I wasn't able to study as much as I had planned to study. And so, yeah, what I ended up doing was I studied for about 2 weeks straight. So I would get up at like 7 or 8 in the morning and study until like 12 in the evening. So I do not recommend that at all.
What I did, I was also trying to plan on starting a little bit earlier, but things were piling up kind of quickly and I got delayed a little bit. She had hers basically 2 weeks right after school ended. I set mine so it was about beginning in July, so I gave myself a couple months in the summer to be able to study for it, and I think it helped me out. I do wish I could have given myself a little bit more time. What I basically did was try to read 3 or 4 chapters a day when I started going, make sure that went over it plenty of times, jotted down a couple of important stuff here and there, because writing helps me retain information. It's pretty much what I did.
Well, and so what I wish I would have done is started studying during Christmas break of last Christmas, and really hit it hard over Christmas break instead of leaving myself just a semester to study and then just a semester turned into just 2 weeks to study because I was sick. I really wish I would have started studying a lot earlier, because they say that you should study for about 300 hours in addition to your classes that you have that are supposed to prepare you for the MCAT. So yeah, that's what I really wish I would have done, and I wish I would have made a study schedule and just stuck to it, because I'm pretty good about like planning out study schedules and stuff for whenever I'm studying for tests for school. So I really wish I would have done that and stuck to it, just fought through being sick a little bit, and I also kind of wish I would have taken care of myself a little bit better whenever I had first gotten sick, so that way it wouldn't have turned into an all semester ordeal. It could have been like a week or 2 at max.
But with me, what I wish I could have done, also I wish I could have started studying earlier. For me, not just Christmas, even though I was actually planning on starting Christmas. I was actually kind of making up a schedule, but then things happened and that got delayed. But I was, if I could do it again, I would have started studying probably halfway or even the beginning of the fall semester. So I could have done at least start off 30 minutes, an hour a day, and then slowly increase on there. Another thing I wish I did more, I did a little bit towards the end, is I guess quiz over the information a little bit more, because kind of happened is in that sort of rush-like scenario, both of us, well, I know for me for sure, but possibly both of us kind of went over it without really going over it.
Yeah, it was like we kind of beat it into our heads so much that it wasn't really productive for us, I think, just being honest here. I spent those 2 weeks reading my Kaplan books. So, I mean, there's 7 Kaplan books and I was reading 1 chapter out of each a day. And so that was 12 chapters, 7 books, and it was just really a nightmare to do that in 2 weeks. So again, I would highly recommend, if you have the prep books, you read them well in advance, make study guides, make notes and stuff like that, and study that whenever you go to study for your MCAT. Don't leave yourself so little time that you're just reading, because you're not going to retain anything.
Especially with the stress piling up that it's like, oh, I have this Doom test coming up in a week or 2. And truth be told, if you start early enough, ideally you probably don't want to do a whole lot that week before. I'm just saying, because at that point, a week before the test, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah, you need to be going back over things, but it needs to be more of like a recreational sort of going back over things, and not a frying yourself going back over things. Because if you're completely fried whenever you go to try to take your test, you're not going to perform well. That's just how it is.
And that's, I could say that when we talk about tips and stuff, but that's pretty much what I wish I could have done. Start early. start early.
I've made a list of things that, like some tips and a study method that I stick to whenever I'm studying for class tests. So, I mean, this guide that I've made for you guys, it'll work for your class tests, for your grad school entrance exams, for pretty much any test that you have that is reading heavy. Like if you have the book and your professor wants you to read like this chapter or whatever for this test, this is the kind of thing that'll work for you. It won't really work so much for like if your teachers give you PowerPoints or like study guides, but this is for if you're reading and stuff. So I'm going to link that down below. It'll be in a Google Doc. And so I'm going to talk about a little bit of the stuff that I talked about there. So the first tip that I have for you, and again, this is for reading heavy classes or like the MCAT, the GRE, the PCAT, the DAT, that kind of thing where you have to read your prep books and study. So the first tip, make multiple passes through your books. The first pass that you make through your book is just going to like get your feet wet in the material. It's not going to stick at all. So
skim through the first time, then read a little bit like more in depth, trying to get the major concepts and maybe a bullet point, highlight or write notes as you go along.
Tip 2 is do something productive during each pass. So what I mean by this is during each time that you go through your books, you need to be doing something that keeps your mind actively engaged. So whether that's like the first time that you read through your books, you can make notes or write in the margins or something. And then for me, the second time that I go through, I highlight vocabulary. And my vocabulary highlight color is different from my other highlight colors. So the third time that I go through the book, it is like my pink highlight pass, and that is for the learning objectives that you have. And if they overlap, like if the learning objective overlaps with vocabulary word, I'll just underline it in pink. So that way it'll be like yellow with a pink underline. And then the third pass that I go through is if the book comes out and says, what you need to remember is, I highlight that in orange. So that kind of helps me get organized for whenever later I'll go and make study guides and things like that. It helps me figure out exactly what I want to include in the study guides. So remember, highlighting works by contrast. If everything's highlighted one color, nothing's highlighted at all. So,
and highlighting might not work for everybody. Personally, I don't highlight a whole lot of stuff, and the reason that I don't is, for me, it helps me focus, it helps me get stuff down, and as I go through the different information, sometimes I highlight to make it a little bit faster, but if I have a bit of time, if I don't highlight anything, I can spend the time to actually search and understand it because I'm focusing on trying to see, I can put these links together. Okay, this term here, these describe this term. You're finding it instead of just, to me, I mean, of course, highlighting works really well for some people. It doesn't work that well for me. Kind of like flashcards for some reason. I'm just weird, I guess.
well, see, making flashcards is what helps me, not going back over them afterwards. It's like the process of making the flashcards that helps me.
Making flashcards help me. Making lists help me for some reason. Like, and this is like for MCAT people or any sort of biology people, if you have a section about the endocrine system, here's what's something that helped me. Here's what I would recommend you do. Make a giant list.
Check it twice.
Find out who's naughty or nice. Don't have to do that. You can if you want, but you want to make what I did. I made a giant list. Like, this really helped me with AMP. I made a giant list, and I wrote down like all the hormones, all the endocrine glands, organs, and then after that I wrote down their connections. Like, this causes this to make this, which causes this to make this, which then can feedback loop here to stop this. Just make a big list, and then you will, with that list, you can kind of see the big picture, how everything works together, and then you can tackle each small section at a time. Okay, this does this and makes this, and then this comes this and turns this off.
Well, and that kind of leads me to tip 3 that I have, which is make a study guide. Now, study guides help me so much because I tell all of my friends that are in the class with me, like a week in advance, hey, I'm making a study guide for this, do you want it? And the reason why I do that is because it keeps me accountable. Like, I have to make the study guide if other people are waiting for it, you know? So, like, if I've told Caden or my friend Caitlin, hi Caitlin, then I'm gonna make a study guide, in which, like, she makes study guides and stuff for me too, and he makes study guides for me. Like, we kind of pass it around and we're study buddies and everything. But if I tell someone that I'm going to be making a study guide, it keeps me accountable, and it makes me, kind of forces me to do a good job. And it also forces me to think, okay, how do I explain this in a way that if someone didn't read the book, they might be able to understand it better. So it's really making me understand the information more than just regurgitating the information.
And yeah, her study guides do help a lot. But
And I've actually included in the Google Doc that's down below, I've included just a small, like, one-page example of one of the study guides that I had.
the best tip I can give is don't wait till the last minute to start anything, whether it be college or MCAT, GRE, any of those big tests. You want to start as early as you can, because if you have more time, not only do you have more time that you can make mistakes and perfect the way you study, and just have a little bit of room for error if something for some reason goes awry. And another tip I can give is be consistent, but start out slow if you're trying to get your, I guess, feet wet. So like you say, if you're studying for the GRE or the MCAT, start with something that you might be a little bit more familiar with. So biology majors start out with biology, start going through biology stuff. And then as you go through, increase your load a little bit, and then start adding things on, say, that you might not be as familiar with, say physics or something like that.
Yeah.
And third thing, whenever you go to prepare for these different exams, make sure you, at one point or another, take all the classes that you need for that exam, like all the topics, because that helps tremendously.
Right,
Taking physics ahead of time helped me with the MCAT.
I didn't take physics before the MCAT, but that was the section that I did the best on, which I think it's because there's not really a whole lot of physics on the first section of the MCAT. It's mostly Gen Chem, and I loved Gen Chem, so.
I didn't do quite as well in Gen Chem, but when it came to physics, I did okay.
Tip 4 is look up a YouTube video or online resources for the stuff that you don't get, because there will be times that you'll be reading through your practice books and like you're going to be, or if like you're taking a test or whatever, and you're going to find something that just does not make sense at all. Your professors might have tried to beat it into your brain, you've tried to beat it into your brain, you're just not going to get it. So look up a YouTube video or online resource or somebody that's really, really smart in your class and ask them, what is it that I'm not getting? Help me, okay? And like one of the best YouTube resources ever, I love it, it helped me so much for the MCAT, is the Khan Academy like website and YouTube page, because it's completely free. They give you so much information, and they really break it down in a way that students can understand, because I think a lot of the time in classes professors explain it in a way that makes sense to professors, and they're up here and we're down here and we need information down here.
But just keep in mind, there's plenty of resources out there that'll help you get through this thing. And here's my fourth tip is, while you don't want to underestimate these exams, don't be so worried about them that it just consumes your life, because it's not worth it. These are obstacles. These are just little speed bumps. It's not that big of a deal, to be told. The MCAT isn't as stupidly hard as people say it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is difficult. It is very difficult, but it's not impossible, and y'all are more than capable of doing it. If I could get through, I don't know how I did on it, but if I could somehow,
I'll find out soon.
If I could somehow get through it, I know y'all will easily be able to get through it. I'm sure y'all are smart. I don't know you, but I'm sure y'all are smart.
You're all smart.
But it's just an exam. It's just one step on your path to becoming a physician or becoming a doctor or becoming whatever you are. Don't let the MCAT, Praxis, GRE, don't let these tests worry you so much that you can't do anything else or that you can't enjoy anything else. Just take the appropriate steps, be prepared, take the appropriate steps to studying, make yourself a plan, stick with that plan, and you'll get through it.
Mm-hmm. And my tip 5 is just start studying and find a way to stay motivated. This is the most important thing, because none of these other tips are going to help you if you don't start studying, so just start and stay motivated. Okay, so like, subscribe, and comment, and hit the little bell if you want to be notified.
If you have any questions or criticisms or any tomatoes to throw, just leave them in the comments below. Let us know if you want to know anything else or if you want us to talk about something in the future.
And we'll see you guys next time.
See you later.
Bye!